Hey guys, welcome back to New Tennis Era Podcast. My name's Anthony Hirsch. Today I'm going to be talking about Tommy Paul getting the win over Grigor Dimitrov in Stockholm in what was a really fun match between two very talented players. Going to talk a little bit about the Six Kings Slam, a little bit on it. I want to give more priority towards ATP events rather than exhibitions in general. I'll talk a little bit about it. And also some of the other tournaments going on this week. We had 3 ATP events going on, such as Antwerp, and then also talk about the off-court coaching rule that was announced in 2025, among other things. Appreciate everybody for tuning in. Please don't forget to subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Please don't forget to like and share all of that stuff. Second episode of the podcast. If you're new, this is a new podcast that's happening on the QualityShot Tennis channel, happening weekly every single Tuesday, and where I talk about all things tennis. And I also have a weekly ATP Power Rankings, which is basically the most informed players at the moment for me, who I think are the best players in the world right now. And also just different fun stuff to talk about. So let's get into it. I want to start with Stockholm, where Tommy Paul got the win over Dimitrov in straight sets. He got the win and got his 3rd ATP title of the year, got his 4th ATP title overall. He's also jumped up to 10th in the ATP race. He's the definition of an under-the-radar player, very underrated, such a great athlete. He can get incredible firepower and ball striking, is an incredibly skillful player, can rocket some big forehands from the back of the court, fearless. And I think he doesn't get his credit, but I think that at this point everybody feels, at least as far as I can see, I feel like everybody feels like, yeah, if he's a top 10 player, that makes sense. He should be a top 10 player by now, and it seems like there's a very good chance he's going to be by the end of the year. So there you go. Tommy Paul, he played an absolutely stunningly good final, very good final, very high quality final against Dimitrov. Dimitrov started off very wary, tired, a bit slow in his step. But then the set got really interesting, and I'll talk about some of the key moments as well in the match. But Tommy Paul played great. Dimitrov also quality match overall, although there were a few more issues with Dimitrov. I think he was tired a bit from a really epic semifinal against Grigor in the semifinals, which was, speaking of big hitting, some big hitting in that one, and I'll talk about that one a little bit later on as well. But yeah, I just going straight into some of the key stats and key things that happened in this match. Some of the key things that happened in this match: Grigor's serve was not at its best in this match. He was serving, just to talk about some of the stats, he was serving like 55% first serves in, which is not ideal. It's not the worst stat like that you'll see, but it's not ideal. You usually want at least, I'd say, 60% first serves in, ideally. And he was winning only 35% of second serve points overall. So just do the math. If you're not making a whole lot of first serves in and you're losing your second serve points, with Paul being very aggressive on the serve return, then that's going to be a problem. In fact, in the first set, he was winning just 26% of second serve points. And he was playing a lot of second serve points, including the first kind of key moment in the match where Paul cracked a huge return clean winner to break Dimitrov on a second serve in the second game of the match, which was a very, very strong start for Tommy Paul. He's barely losing points. He looked very, very locked in. His forehand was fantastic. The only thing that I felt like was really an Achilles heel for Tommy Paul in this match was really his forehand inside out. Making a lot of errors on the forehand inside out, and it showed in the stats as well. When he was hitting his forehand cross court, he won 57% of the rallies where he hit a forehand cross court. When he hit an inside out forehand, he won just 45% of points, so a 12 percentage point difference there. And this is a match where he was winning most of the rallies. So if he was winning below 50 when he was hitting forehands inside out, that says something, especially because his forehand is so good. So the forehand inside out wasn't really working, and he was hitting a lot of forehand inside outs. There's like 33 rallies in the match where he hit a forehand inside out, which is a lot. But to brush away a little bit from the numbers, because I feel like they can get a bit confusing, The point is, he was hitting a lot of forehand inside outs, but I felt like Dimitrov probably could have taken advantage of it more, because when Paul hit forehand inside out, Dimitrov's backhand was way too central in the court. And I don't know if it's because he couldn't really pop up from the use his legs to really pop up and get underneath the ball, bend his knees, explode in and out of the corners to the backhand the way he would want to when maybe he's a little bit quicker. But regardless of what it is, his backhand was not usually as effective, and his slice was not really effective at all in this match. Just to bring you one more stat, this was very noticeable to me watching the match, that his slice was just not effective at this match against Tommy Paul. Tommy Paul did not mind playing against the slice. He lost 58% of points when he used the slice, Dimitrov. So yeah, those are a few things that I would mention, and especially the Dimitrov serve really let him down. Dimitrov's serve has been so good post US Open last year, or really just starting last year. Dimitrov's serve's been so good, but it was a really good final. For a two-set final, it was really good. Both of them are two of the biggest talents, two of the best athletes in the last 5-10 years on the tour, I would say, at least 5 years. Dimitrov probably a little bit longer back than that, because Dimitrov is such an exquisite athlete. But yeah, Dimitrov started weaker. Paul was locked in from the get-go. And I'll talk about some of the key moments of the match. But before I get into that, just a few other things I want to mention is that, well, Tommy Paul is top 10 in the race, and could he be top 8 by the end of the year? It's pretty interesting, because Djokovic has pulled out of Paris, which means he's not going to be able to gain points from that. It seems to me very likely Rublev and Ruud will pass Novak. The question is if Dimitrov and Paul or de Minaur can pass Djokovic, who will probably be at the 8th spot. It'll be interesting. Currently, Dimitrov is 255 points behind the 9th spot in the race. Paul is 220 points behind the 9th spot. And they are respectively 465 points behind the 8th spot, which is Rublev, and 500 points behind the 8th spot. There's rumors that Djokovic might not even play Turin, and that his next event might be Australian Open. He's risking not qualifying for Turin by not playing Paris. And he's also spoken about how it's not his top priority. His top priority is Slam. So we'll see. But those are some of that's where it's at. Paul and Dimitrov are kind of the big names to watch, in my opinion. While people fight for the spots in the race. I think this is way more interesting than it was this time last year, where people fight for the spots in the race, so it'll be interesting. And the last thing I want to mention before I go over just some of the key moments that happened in the match is Grigor, issues with finals now. He's lost 6 of his last 7 finals, including 5 of his last 6 since finally getting to a final again last year. Since last year, he's lost 5 of the 6 finals that he's reached. So he's gotten basically from being incapable of winning semifinals to being incapable of winning finals. He won one against Rune in a high-quality final in Brisbane earlier this year to start this year, and Rune was playing well at that time. But yeah, he's gone from 11 semifinal losing streak to losing 6 of his last 7 finals. So it's just Dimitrov needs to find ways to pick it up at the late stages of tournaments. That's something he's not been able to do, whether it's physical issues, which I feel like here is part of it, and I feel like it's been part of it in other tournaments as well, or if it's a mental thing, which is probably the bigger issue, to be completely honest. But yeah, that's just something else I want to mention before going over a few key moments that happened in this match. And it was an enjoyable match. Even though it was 2 sets, I did enjoy it. But yeah, and also another example, just before I get into it, is Marseille. Very similar situation happened in Marseille to Dimitrov. 250 tournament, indoor hard courts earlier this year, and he narrowly escaped an absolute epic against Khachanov in the semifinals there, and then just didn't have enough in the tank for the final. So he needs to find ways to physically, mentally be able to pick up a title at the end of the week. That's just something that Dimitrov has not been able to do, and I'd say that that's a key point in this match as well. All right, going over some of the key moments that happened in this match. Right from the get-go, Dimitrov was off his game. Around 1-3, Dimitrov started playing better tennis, where he wasn't always just at the mercy of Paul completely. But then Paul is just playing out of his mind, and it's 1-4, and Dimitrov saves 2 break points, nearly a breadstick. I thought it was going to be a breadstick set, but a very quick breadstick set. 1-4, Dimitrov saves 2 break points, very crucial for the set to be competitive, which it was. Dimitrov, like I said, started off slow. The second break point was a very tough point, a very tough rally where he managed to defend very nicely, was moving athletically much better. He had a strong forehand cross court to turn defense to offense. And on the other one, Dimitrov closed into the net nicely. So just moving around the court a little bit better, and was able to save a tough break point. And then at 2-4, Paul just makes 2 bad loose errors. He makes 2 bad loose errors, gets behind in the game. And then they go through a couple of deuces. And Dimitrov hits 2 of the best shots of the match. They play an incredible rally. Dimitrov defending all over the court, definitely moving a lot better now, even though it seems like he's not doing it as effortlessly as Tommy Paul, who's also younger than Dimitrov, but also he just hasn't played as much tennis in the tournament. And Dimitrov hits this outrageous forehand down the line shot to bring up a break point. Tommy Paul fends off that break point, but then Dimitrov hits this incredible backhand down the line clean winner, and then Tommy Paul, that brings it to deuce, and then Tommy Paul he's lost a little bit of that mental edge and confidence. He's lost a little bit of that mental edge and confidence because Dimitrov is doing so well to fight here, and he's just hitting incredible shots, and it's very obvious, and he's just not able to keep up that kind of confident, intense, high quality that he started with, that consistent quality. He serves in volleys off of not a great serve. He sets up Grigor with a forehand cross-court pass with a mediocre half volley when he served and volleyed. That really popped up, and Grigor's forehand cross-court has been working anyway, so he hits a forehand cross-court winner, and suddenly it's back on serve. So Dimitrov really picking up his defense, really picking up his shot making, and Tommy Paul kind of losing it with a early forehand unforced error, and then a serve and volley off a serve that had no right to be serve and volleyed after. Then at 4-3, 15-all, another really fantastic rally. Not a big moment in the match, but I think it's very telling of why the result was what the result was. I just have a few more points to go over here. But in this point, Dimitrov had the advantage, but he was a step slow moving around the backhand, and he gets the forehand a bit short, which gives Paul enough time to blast a forehand behind Dimitrov down the line. And it just shows that if you gave Paul was so incredible athletically in this match, and especially off the forehand. He was cracking forehands out of really difficult positions and hitting really good angles off that forehand. The forehand cross court was very good. Forehand down the line, very good. It was only the forehand inside out that wasn't working. Otherwise, the forehand was really working from Paul. And I feel like Dimitrov wasn't ready for it, and the fact that he was a step slow and was not able to run around the backhand to hit his forehand, or at least get into position well to hit his forehand, was kind of the problem, and Paul was just taking everything that Dimitrov was giving him. Dimitrov would give him an inch, and Paul would run a mile. So that's kind of what happened. 4-3 break point. Dimitrov is a bit too reliant on hitting a slice. I feel like he does this when he's nervous, showing a lack of confidence. He plays an awkward one, rushing into it, moving inside the court. Yeah, it just felt like, I don't know, I felt like Dimitrov didn't feel like he really had the legs today to really rally with Tommy Paul. And that was probably, I feel like that made up kind of the lack of confidence that Dimitrov had to really hit over the backhand. I feel like he didn't feel like he had the legs, and he felt like he had to revert to slicing a little bit too much. 5-3, unforced error central from Tommy Paul. He loses his serve in about a minute. Dimitrov playing well, better movement, athleticism from Grigor, breaks back for the second time, but then Grigor has the momentum at 15-love, 4-5, but then two bad double faults from Dimitrov, a backhand in the middle of the net, a forehand long, and suddenly the set is over. So two poor games from either guys to end the set, and that's kind of how that happened. And then some more of the same in the second set. A lot of the same things happened, but that first set really gave the advantage to Tommy Paul. And yeah, in the second set, a lot of the same things. And it was Tommy Paul who ended up taking his 4th title of his career and 3rd title of the year, after Dallas and of course after Queens as well. And he actually becomes the first player outside of Sinner, Alcaraz, Djokovic, and Medvedev in the last 2 seasons to win at least 3 titles in a season, and one of those titles being above 250 level. He's only the 5th player after those guys in the last 2 years to do that. To win 3 titles in a season where not all 3 are 250 titles. Like I think Sebastian Baez won 3 last year, but they're all 250s. So that's a big stat for Tommy Paul to show that he's really found a good level to put himself with Medvedev, Sinner, Alcaraz, and Djokovic. But yeah, that was the Tommy Paul match that I wanted to talk about. Great performance for Tommy Paul. He's somebody to look out for. He's somebody to look out for big time, and you can be sure that you'll find him on the power rankings, because right now I'm feeling good about Tommy Paul, and that's what the power rankings are all about. But we'll get to power rankings in a little bit later. Just briefly want to talk about the Six Kings exhibition. I did a preview earlier in the week, and you can watch out for me to do different previews and other video content on this channel. That's going to be coming a lot, so watch out for that. But yeah, I did a preview, and I predicted Alcaraz to win. I predicted pretty confidently Alcaraz to win, but no, Sinner had other ideas. And honestly, I was talking about the Alcaraz motivation a lot when it came to Six Kings, but I confess that I think I got the motivation a little bit wrong, because I didn't take into account how motivated Sinner would be to not lose to Carlos again. And I feel like that motivation is stronger than the motivation in an exhibition to make sure that you beat the person 4 times in a row. Sinner is just like, I don't care if it's an exhibition or not, I don't want to lose to you again. I'm tired of this. So I feel like that was probably a key thing. And Sinner is so impressive mentally. He's so impressive mentally. That was the big thing in this match. Alcaraz was hitting a few too many unforced errors. He double faulted, in fact, at the 4-3 game, disastrous game, to give Sinner to the break at the end, where Sinner held out love. A bit of a statement from Jannik as well. Jannik was up 4-1 in the first set, and then he kind of blew that lead. But then, you know, he regrouped very well, and that's kind of what mattered. Sinner was blasting the hell out of the ball. Really hard forehands. I feel like some of the issue maybe with Sinner recently is that he's gotten more consistent and a little bit more, you know, why people say he's a bit more robotic, a bit Djokovic-esque, you know. He's a bit more high percentage, high margin, you know, playing within himself. Not getting as many unforced errors on the forehand. But that's done really well against everybody on the tour except for Carlos Alcaraz. Part of the reason that I feel like Sinner had the edge over Alcaraz is maybe because before he was going for a little bit more high risk, and he was going for these huge forehand winners. I feel like Sinner now has figured out he needs to do that. He needs to add speed to his forehands, which, by the way, is hard to do anyway on some of the courts where Alcaraz has beaten him, like Indian Wells and Roland Garros. And then Beijing was very close, but good job to Alcaraz. He earned an epic victory there. But yeah, it's exciting. It's an exciting rivalry. They both played really well at the end of the day, but Sinner's mental strength and his stability mattered at the end of the day. And yeah, Sinner was you know, hitting huge shots, and they're still going in. Alcaraz was just a little bit too chaotic. He had bad games in the match, and that's the thing. Alcaraz is more highs and lows. Sinner is more about kind of playing the middle, but he kind of played the middle while also, you know, trying a little bit more high risk and going for bigger forehands, which I think paid off. Nadal versus Djokovic. I think the Olympics is the final farewell. I'm not counting a 3rd round match in like a bronze medal kind of match in an exhibition to play for who has 3rd place as the final farewell. But it was nice with them still as professionals to play one more time in front of a big crowd in a tournament that's getting a lot of attention. So that was nice. Great shot making from both. Incredible athleticism and movement from Nole, I thought. Also big forehands. But Nadal's forehand also picked up at the end with some incredible match point saving. There's an incredible point at 5-5, which he hit, but Rafa maybe just put so much energy into breaking Novak at 5-4, and was maybe a little bit tired at the end of the tiebreaker, and maybe a little bit more point in, point out, maybe not as experienced in the recent matches, in the recent months, I should say, like Novak has been, and I feel like that came into play because the point in, point out consistency wasn't quite there. He had a bad volley at 4-4, and then at 5-6, maybe just a little bit tired in the legs, and maybe it was just a little bit visible. He was hitting his forehand pretty central, and yeah, and then Novak was able to break through. But Rafa, good resistance at the end of the day, and a high level. You'd like to see it. Rafa's forehand never dies, and that was visible in this match as well. I'll talk about some of the other tournaments. And then I'll go to the weekly categories, because there's some stuff to get through. But yeah, 2 other ATP tournaments going on this week, and I want to talk about it. Khachanov and Roberto Bautista Agut are ATP champions this week as well. Khachanov getting it done at the Almaty Open, which is great for Khachanov. He had I mean, listen, it's a good week for Khachanov, but it was a strange tournament. It was definitely a very strange tournament. He beat Diallo in the final. Diallo's been playing well. I'm always seeing his name around during Davis Cup. He's gotten some big wins as a pretty low-ranked player in Davis Cup, which brought a lot of attention to him. But good run to get to the final. Khachanov beat him in 3 sets to win his 7th title. Khachanov didn't have to play a seed the whole tournament. Still a nice event from him, but yeah, he didn't have to play a seed the whole tournament. He likes this part of the season on indoors, and yeah, he wins his 7th title. In general, Khachanov's opponents in finals are pretty funny to me. These are all great players to respect, but he has beaten Ramos Vinolas, Lucas Pouille, Adrian Manarino, Nishioka, Jakub Mensik, Diallo, and a guy that you might not even have heard the name of, Novak Djokovic, in the Paris 2018 final, of course. But yeah, I mean, listen, you can only beat the players in front of you. To win 7 titles is no easy feat. Those are all great players. But yeah, I mean, if you look at most finals lists, there'll be players that were higher ranked than those players for people who have won 7 titles, but still respect to Khachanov, and he played a good tournament this week. So yeah, respect to him, and he's somebody to look out for on the indoors. And I mean, he was top 10 for like 1 week last year, and then he got injured, so we'll see if he can get back into the top 10. But Roberto Bautista Agut became the 21st player in the Open era, 36 years old or older, to win a title. The other semi-finalists were Hugo Gaston, Marcos Giron, and Yuri Lehechka, who are all dangerous in their own right, but it is a bit of a strange semi-finals at an ATP tournament. Bautista Agut beat Lehechka to win the title. Great event from an unseeded Bautista Agut. He's been struggling. The last final that he got to, I believe, was in January last year. He had like a decade-long consistency, and then he's kind of been struggling since then. But a great event, wins his 12th title. 12th title. That's 12 titles. That's a pretty crazy accomplishment. He now ties Gil Monfils, who's reached, I believe, 11 more finals than Bautista Agut, and also Nishikori, who himself has reached 3 more finals than Bautista Agut, and is now in front of Tsitsipas as well, also in front of a guy like Milos Raonic, although he's dealt with injury. Also, he's had to play the big 3 a lot in finals, to be fair, if you look at his finals opponents, but still, it's pretty crazy when you think about it and you put it that way. He's in front of Tsitsipas for now. Bautista Agut deserves his credit, though. Like I said, he's had like a decade-long consistency. He's had a few good upsets as well, and he deserves his dues, so good for him. Finally finding some success again. And now I bring it to the second addition to the weekly power rankings. At number 1 is Jannik Sinner, who also would be number 1. He won the 16 Slam, and he's playing well in general. Even before this exhibition tournament, he's been the best player in the world. His second week at number 1 in the power rankings. Number 2 is Carlos Alcaraz, which, once again, who else would it be? He's been playing amazing. Also got to the final of the 6 King Slam. Number 3 is Novak Djokovic, who's also been playing really, really well. Still, I feel like Novak will be happy with his level this week. He'll be happy with his level last week in Shanghai, especially. And yeah, I think that he deserves the number 3 spot. Number 4, I go with Taylor Fritz. I feel like Fritz moves up 1 spot and he gets to number 4. I feel like Fritz deserves his credit. He's played well, and part of the reason he moves up 1 spot, he was at number 5 last week just because Medvedev went down. But listen, Fritz has been playing great. He got to the semis of Shanghai last week, beat Rune in about 30 minutes, and then lost to Djokovic in a close match. And before that, did well at Laver Cup, beat Zverev, got to the final of the US Open, so he deserves to be at number 4 for right now. Number 5 is Tommy Paul, who moves into the power rankings. He played a marvelous week of tennis. He's been playing so well, and I think I've already said everything that I have to say about Tommy Paul. Number 6 is Jakub Mensik. He moves up 1 spot. He had a great win today over Alexei Popyrin. He's just looking great. Amazingly, had to qualify into the tournament this week, but soon that's not going to be the case. This guy is rocketing up the rankings, and yeah, I'm happy to put him at the number 6 spot. I'm very excited about Mensik at the moment. Number 7 is Medvedev, who's right behind there. He's been a little bit not quite Medvedev-like recently, although I think that he had a great win against Tsitsipas in Shanghai. He had a good match against Carlos Alcaraz in Beijing, so he's still playing well. I want to give him his dues as somebody who I still think can play well right now, but obviously lost very quickly in the 6 King Slam, which once again is an exhibition, but I don't feel that confident to put him into, let's say, the top 5 right now. Number 8 is Ben Shelton. He won UTS. I'm going to stop talking about these exhibitions, though. He's been playing well. Shelton's been playing well. He was at number 8 last week as well. He deserves to be there. He's had a good last few weeks. I spoke about that last week when I put him in the power rankings. He hasn't actually played an ATP tournament since then, but he deserves to stay at number 8. Number 9 is Artur Fils. He had a good win today as well. And number 10 is Talon Griekspoor, who got to the semifinals in Stockholm and played a great match against Dimitrov. I want to put him at number 10 and give him that shout out, because even though he didn't get to any finals this week, I want to put him into the power rankings for the first time. He entered in this week. And an honorable mention to Mahoch and Draper, who have just who just didn't play this week, or I think last week as well. Like the last 2 weeks, but they very well may enter the power rankings again soon. So yeah, I want to give a shout out to that. But yeah, Griekspoor, he beat Casper Ruud this week, I think, for his 3rd top 10 victory. He just struggles against the big players and struggles in the big tournaments, but he's so complete, he's so talented. He hits the ball huge, and he can, and he's a fun player to watch. I think he's underrated in entertainment value, at least for my personal subjective taste. Player of the week. Tommy Paul is my player of the week. The American played marvelous, played a great final against Dimitrov. He's been playing well all week. Also steamrolled over Stanislas Wawrinka, who's my honorable mention for player of the week, along with Yannick, who won the 6 King Slam. Those are my honorable mentions, but Tommy Paul is my player of the week. He deserves it. He deserves the credit. Just playing absolutely great, and I would definitely watch out for him. It would be cool if he could get to the top 8 by the end of the year. It certainly seems like he's going to end the year in the top 10. I would be surprised if he doesn't, actually, at this point. My match of the week is not one that involves Tommy Paul, though. It does come from that tournament. Dimitrov versus Griekspoor, a match that I mentioned earlier. Both were exchanging huge shots back and forth, like table tennis. Great shot making. Dimitrov in particular was rocketing forehands, and it was played at such a high intensity. I feel like that took a lot out of Grigor for the final, no doubt about it. Dimitrov was looking fatigued during parts of the match, and it was a bit of a worry if he would even be able to pull up to the final in a very good way at all, but he was able to at least put up a good fight in the final. But that semifinal was a very, very, very high quality, fun one, good one. Griekspoor could have won too, but yeah, he just mentally, Dimitrov was a little bit stronger in this one, and it could have gone either way. It went the way of Grigor Dimitrov. My shot of the week. First, I'm going to name my honorable mentions, and I'm going to mention some exhibitions. This time I feel like it's actually pretty legitimate to mention the exhibitions for the shot making, because the shots are nearly as impressive in an exhibition as an ATP tournament. I guess not quite as impressive because the stakes aren't as high, but $6 million on the line though, which isn't bad. But at 5-5, Rafa's forehand down the line against Novak Djokovic, incredible shot. This was unbelievable. It was just perfect. It was like the perfect moment. Rafa just saved match point. He just broke Novak, and he hits this incredible shot at 5-5, like we've seen a million times. But this was one of his best. It was really incredible that he's still able to do this at 38 and some change. And yeah, and just the darkness behind him as he kind of does his iconic celebration and smiles. You know, a smile to end this era of tennis really is what that was. It ends with this huge monstrous forehand. And then a forehand into the net to end off that match, but with Djokovic getting the win. But yeah, just kind of turning his back into the darkness around the court and in this Six King Slam. And just kind of, you know, Rafa's forehand just never dies. This era, the crazy things we've seen, it just, the legacy lives on, you know. And Rafa's forehand, even if he plays in 10 years, I feel like he's just going to be cracking forehand winners like that. So, you know, just an eternal legacy of, you know, that's what this felt like. It just felt like a celebration, and that the legacy is going to live on. And that was an incredible forehand shot from Rafael Nadal. Also, Ben Shelton hit 4 around the net winners against Hugo Humbert in the final of UTS. Ridiculous. One of them, he ran around a backhand on the deuce side to hit a forehand, a lefty forehand, and he still managed to hit it down the line for a perfect clean winner. Ridiculous shot from Ben Shelton. I don't know how in the world he found the angle to hit run around this backhand, hit a forehand to the nearest angle down the line, the nearest angle to him, and still get it in. But absolutely miraculous shot. Top 5 craziest thing I've seen on a tennis court. Like, this was bizarre. I didn't even know this was possible. I remember Medvedev hitting around the net return winner against Dan Evans at the US Open. I was like, that's one of the greatest shots I've ever seen. Nobody's ever going to do this again. That one's tougher because that was played with a doubles net. This is with a singles net, and I think it's even shorter than a usual singles net, but still. Remarkable shot from Ben Shelton. But my shot of the week goes to Hugo Gaston, who hit an absolutely remarkable over the head winner for a perfect winner down the line passing shot while running backwards, retrieving a lob. So look that one up if you haven't. If you look up Hugo Gaston, incredible shot, you'll find it, because that was really one of the shots of the year without a shadow of a doubt. All right, and now rounding off the podcast with culture. Once again, I appreciate everybody for tuning in, and please don't forget to like if you haven't, and hopefully you guys keep tuning in down the road as well. Yeah, talking about some things for culture. Like I mentioned earlier, Djokovic pulled out of Paris. This is the big news. I actually don't mind it in its own way to pull out of Paris. Novak says that he really wants to focus on the slams. I wouldn't mind him kind of pulling out of Paris, Davis Cup, and United Cup, and kind of just, if his schedule was to be maybe ATP Finals and then an Aussie Open lead-up, like he played Adelaide and then he won in Australia, maybe Adelaide and then plays the Australian Open. Like, something like that could be quite good. But it's big news. Paris draw definitely opens up. Sinner will definitely be an even heavier favorite for the title, even though he's never won there. Also, watch out for Medvedev, I guess, if he picks up his level, which he'll need to. But yeah, I mean, Djokovic out of Paris, and we'll see if he is out of the ATP Finals or if he plays it. The biggest thing I want to talk about, though, in regards to culture, I have 2 more things to bring up here, and they're pretty similar in some regard. Off-court coaching, ITF ruled in its annual general meeting that following trials, it's going to make off-court coaching legal. And what their statement is, hopefully to make tennis fairer and potentially more entertaining. Right, specifically, their quote, to make tennis fairer and potentially more entertaining. Some players have already spoken out. Shapovalov, Fritz, Magnus Norman, a former top pro and also a coach now. He even spoke out against the rule. This to start in January 2025. Coaches still have to be brief and discreet whatever the hell that means, you know. There's so much. Everything is so subjective here. And also, what do they mean by discrete? I mean, just none of the wording makes much sense here. It's like, I feel like you either have to almost allow everything or nothing. And I would rather they allow nothing. But they now offer coaching anytime between points. So presumably any side of the court, you can talk to your player. Anytime between points, which I hope doesn't cause some hindrance to servers. I know umpires will have to make a judgment call and be on top of it, but also in team events, the team captain may coach now, and also players can access player analysis technology whenever coaching is permitted. That part sucks. I don't understand why that would possibly be allowed as well. I guess because it's hard to, if that was against the rules, it would be almost impossible to manage people not doing that maybe, but it's just, that's the whole thing though. It opens up this whole can of worms where people can now use this technology and AI, real-time data, AI, where it's processing real-time data, and it's just like, it just feels like we're treading in the wrong direction. It just feels like in so many ways, I mean, they said players felt, quote, players felt it was a positive development and makes tournaments more interesting for them. But so many players have already spoken out, and I just can't imagine that to be the case. It makes the tournaments easier, you know, but that doesn't mean it's better. Just because tennis is more similar to other sports doesn't mean it's better. I feel like in so many ways, tennis is starting to force itself to be what it's not. There's so many good things about tennis that I feel like we're treading away from that might make it a little bit more difficult to maintain and maybe a little bit less accessible. Like one of the ways that pickleball thrives is that it's so easy to pick up and super accessible and easy. That's not tennis. I don't want that to be tennis. I don't want it to be tennis where, you know, we're playing best of 3 set matches and in Grand Slams finals, and where at every surface across every tournament is just a slow hard court. Like, I don't want that to be the case. Where everything is now just in one country, you know? It's like, it feels like we're getting away from tennis being so global, having so many great tournaments all across the world, having the surface versatility, and, you know, really respecting the difficulty of tennis, which is the one-on-one aspect, the physical aspect over 5 sets, or, you know, or even 3 sets, but without this coaching and the strategic part of it. And I just feel like we should bring out the best of tennis rather than forcing it to be what it's not. And when we're adding coaching, we're just changing the beauty of tennis. And it's just, tennis is amazing because it's such a small margin sport where every little bit of work that you put into it, it will pay off in some degree, because a match can be literally decided by a millimeter, whether it's shot a millimeter in or millimeter out. And it's the little strategy that you put in, it's the kind of willpower, the mental fight, and it's all of these things. And when we add coaching, it just makes it all feel so, even if it's more interesting for the players, it's not more interesting for the fans. I assure you of that. I want to see players be one-on-one and be kind of have that independent aspect, because that makes tennis special. So that's my thought on that. The other news, I'll have less to say on this one, but USDA creates a single cohesive department to enhance support for players along their competitive pathway / career. So basically, they had multiple departments to help, USDA had multiple departments to help players, enhance support for players, give them good resources, financial support, etc., to help them be able to grow as players and be able to travel around and do this for a living and rise up the rankings and be able to become professional at all and maintain being professional in a healthy way, in a successful way. And now they're creating one single department for that, and also the current general manager of player development, which is what I was just talking about, which is financial support, etc. Martin Blackman is stepping down, and they're looking for someone to take the position of leader of this new combined team. I'm not sure if it's good or bad. It seems good. I hope that it's good, because there needs to be way better support for players, way better in every way. It's something that the PTPA, which was founded by Djokovic, is doing very well by Djokovic and Pospisil. That's something that organization is doing great, and it's great to see the USTA taking some steps forward. I don't know, I'm just not an expert in this, so I can't speak in an expert fashion, but where I know all the facts. But I will say, creating a single cohesive department, it could be good to have people working together and make it more cohesive and make sense, where you can get more stuff done. But also, I can imagine a scenario where by making it one department, everything is being done in one place, and that means that less work is being done if all the work is being done in one place at one time. That can mean that it could be more successful, but it could also amount to there being less work being done than if work is being done in 6 different places at the same time, with them there being different departments. So whether it's gonna, and also hopefully it doesn't mean that now it's all just going to be from kind of the opinions and viewpoints of just 1 or 2 people, but I don't think that's going to be the case. It seems like they're just connecting the departments together, and hopefully it creates a successful support for players, because there needs to be better financial support, etc., better resources given to players, especially lower in the rankings. I think that's what they're doing. It seems like they're trying to help players of all levels to be able to get the right resources to help their careers, which is great. And yeah, that's the note I want to end off on. I think we need to, see this in action and get more news before we can really give a better opinion on it. Also, I think I need to give more research on what exactly all the departments are and what's going to happen, what the plan is now that they are together. But that's just something that's happening that I want to mention. Anyway, this was a big podcast with a lot of stuff going on, a lot of stuff that I wanted to get to. I appreciate everybody for tuning in. Thank you for joining in. I've been Anthony Hirsch. Please don't forget to like, subscribe to Quality Shot Tennis if you haven't already. I'll be here next week talking about Vienna, Basel, a lot, and stuff like that. And yeah, please don't forget to share around the podcast, all of that. I'll see you guys next week.